Alright, this video is going to cover some of the basics of left hand technique on guitar. Um, these only cover the basics. There are always going to be some exceptions to the rules, but this is basically a good starting point to keep your hand in a comfortable and, more to the point, safe position at all times. We don't want to be hurting ourselves in the name of music. So to be starting off with, I'd like you to have a limp, put your hand in a limp position. um, this is your fretting hand, so it could, most of the time it's your left hand, but for left-handers it's your right hand. Now I want you to flip this position. Now I want you to flip this around. Don't let your hand bend back when you flip it around. Keep it like this, very neutral curve. This is the kind of position I want your hand to be in. I think of it like you're holding a baby bird, like something that you're, something delicate, and but something that fills your whole hand, and something that's easy to hold. Uh, I'll give you a point of view from the first person. Now, as you can see here, this is the position my hand's in, so hopefully this will give you a better look. I can easily slot that right onto my guitar without changing anything at all. The only thing that really is changing are the fingers. As you can see, the fingers are of different lengths. So they will be, if they're showing the same string, you will have to bend them a little bit differently, and it's probably going to be your pinky which feels the strangest. But as you see, it's not that different. As you can see, my fingers are now turned a little bit. They're not reaching back. They're more sort of more beckoning towards you. So I'll get into what people often do wrong, for lack of a better term. Basically, a lot of people, they feel the need to bring their hand close to the guitar. Now, if you look under here, there's quite a lot of space between my hand and the guitar. The only parts of your hand that should be touching the guitar are the tips of your fingers and the tip of your thumb. That's it. You don't really need that much to sustain a chord or a note on the guitar. Um, Another thing that people often do wrong, they often put their thumb over here. Now, well, I mean, A, it's not as natural position, but B, it often causes people to slant their hand sideways. Now, this gets to my second point. I'll roll up my sleeve. That was unsuccessful. Let me try that again. Now, when I turn my hand to the left, you see the way that my fingernails are sort of facing down that way. We don't want that. We want our fingernails to be facing towards you, towards the sky, towards the ceiling, perfectly. Um, as you see, there's a little bit of a slant on my pinky finger, and that's just kind of a natural consequence. But you don't want them all to be facing like that. Um, the other thing people tend to do is they tend to, like, seemingly push their hand towards the guitar, and you can tell that, like, it would look like this if you were doing that. So you want to maintain a bit of roundness. Here's another point of view I find quite useful. So you can do this. That's what this looks like essentially. It's almost like the Whopper burger, except not as wide, I suppose. And there you go. There you have it. That's the position you want. It should feel like you're kind of pinching the strings almost or pinching the neck between your thumb and your fingers. Like there's a real feeling of doing this with your fingers. Um, and I find that if people are finding it hard to press, I think that's probably one of the biggest reasons some people put their hand here. They kind of mistakenly think that's going to give them a little bit more um, grip. Um, I find that it works if I just get students to try to play notes without using their pick or their right hand at all, just to go. And sometimes they go, "Oh, James, I'm not able to make a sound." But after I do that, they can usually actually maintain the note with when they start playing in the normal way. So I think that's a good argument to think of. I think it's a real discipline. I think, and I would start down at the I would start down at the fifth fret. You see where the second dot is. I would start there. I think that's the most comfortable thing to play on. By the time you start sliding down, and by the time you slide down here, it'll feel a lot more natural. People start to kind of do weird things when they're playing when they're trying to play lower down here, especially when you're playing bass. Bass is a bit of a trickier one because it gets to the stage where you have to sort of make a little bit of a compromise with your hand position. It's not as straight anymore. It starts to make a bit of a turn, and you can see this with double bass players especially, but bass guitar to a lesser extent as well. Which brings me to the other point. You kind of preferably you don't have that turn in your wrist, so it's good to have your elbow not too close, not tucked into your body, because that can make the angle of your arm a bit easier. Oh, another thing. Um, a lot of people, like, have a tendency to bend their wrist, which can be quite unhealthy because they're trying to make their fingers curve more. Because it is important that you don't have your fingers collapse like that. You want to keep your fingers nice and curved. So how do you do this? And you also want to sort of have it just at the fingertips, like right there. That's where you should be feeling the pressure of the strings. So oftentimes the solution is simply putting your hand forward. Sorry, putting your whole arm forward like that. So you're starting there, not able to get a lot of purchase, so that people think, oh, if I bend a bit more, well, actually, all you really need to do, sort of like let your thumb move a little bit further down, and voila, there you go. Fingers are bent. All you had to do is just move your arm forward. Don't need to bend your hand as you're doing that as well. Just see that just naturally happens. And I think that's subject to a bit of variety depending on personal preference. Now, I think that covers most of it. I think the only other thing I would mention is that, yeah, people tend to put their thumbs around the neck, and that again is sort of and I think, and I had one student say, "Oh, I've seen famous players do that." Yeah, so when you're doing things like bending or using vibrato on guitar, yeah, people do rock and roll and blues style players do tend to do this. Now, this is one of the tricky things about guitars. I mean, that's a very not classical style. So what a lot of players are very good at are actually being able to sort of flip between the two positions, which is very advanced. I wouldn't worry about that for now. I would just worry about the position that I'm showing you now, just in the interests of safety as much as anything else. Um, and that's it, as far as I know. So yeah, any questions, feel free to send me an email or ask about it in the next lesson. Okay, ciao.